and Stephanie Lincoln of Fire Team Whiskey, and Triple BS. You'll have to ask her what Triple BS is about. She's going to share her story about surviving for 56 hours in the wilderness in the Olympic Mountains without any food or any sleep, unexpectedly, and the story about how she saved her own life out there in the backcountry. And I think there's some lessons personally and professionally that she'll like to share with us. And we'll also talk today about why it's such an advantage to partner with veteran-owned businesses. I think we all want to partner with veteran-owned businesses and support them, but we don't really maybe know why, other than it makes us feel good and we'd like to give back and we'd like to say thank you. But there are lots of other reasons. So we'll talk about that today. But first, I wanted to just say hello to anybody who's new. I think everybody that's in the room today has been here before. Erica, this is your first meeting. Welcome. She comes to us all the way from San Diego. She's just relocated and is now at Mayport. So welcome to the Jacksonville family. We're glad that you're here. The Women's Business Luncheon meets once a week on the second Tuesday of every month. We are rated I think about 4.7 stars out of 5, I think, for friendliness and being welcome. So we hope that you'll come back and see us. We do 30-second introductions at the beginning of every meeting so that we can make sure to connect with one another and talk about our business. So we're probably just going to hop straight into that this month since we have a smaller group. So who would like to start with that? I know, Lori, you have great experience doing this, so I might pick on you and get you to start early. How does that sound? Would you like to begin?
Oh, except I'm working on a new one and I don't really have it down. So
that's okay. You know what we'll do? So don't do the new one. You can do the old one while I get out my little timer.
And we'll see if I even remember that. I swear, my memory. I've got to get better at this, though.
Yeah, I hear you. And in fact, you know what? You guys might. I was gonna say you might look out. I can't find my clock right now, but no, I just found it. So, Erica, I always time people for 30 seconds, and I just have found that that's really helpful in doing an elevator speech. In crafting that, if you haven't already done that. Like I had mentioned earlier, I'm pitching later this week to several businesses, and I have 90 seconds to convince them to do business with me, or to at least, you know, put out there so that they have an understanding of whether it makes sense to partner or not. So these 30-second trainings are great. You'll do awesome, Lori. You ready?
Yeah, hold on. I'm actually going to cheat a little.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, if that's okay.
You can read. You guys, that's the beautiful thing about virtual. Y'all can read off of something. You just create it and just.
Isn't that awful? Actually, it's on my Facebook page, so.
Let's hear it. All right, you ready?
Okay. Hi, I am Lori Osborne with BizBolster Web Solutions. We build exceptional websites that bolster your business or nonprofit organization. We represent you through consistent branding so you can grow your revenue, establish credibility, and provide a smooth customer experience. Again, it's Lori Osborne with BizBolster Web Solutions.
Crazy. 23 seconds. That's amazing. Good job. Who wants to go next? Sarah, maybe?
Sure. Good afternoon. My name is Sarah. I am the owner and photographer of Pace Photography, where we capture life's most memorable moments. I offer unique opportunities for businesses and professionals alike to put their best foot forward by updating their headshots. I offer flexible scheduling to fit into your timetable, as well as tips prior to the session to make sure you look and feel your best the day of. Again, this is Sarah with Pace Photography.
Awesome.
Yay.
Jenny?
Hi.
Hi, Jenny.
Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Jenny, and I work with Medic Store, which is an international distributor of premium quality PPE, such as N95 masks, nitrile gloves, isolation gowns, ventilators, etc. We work with private and public healthcare organizations, as well as governments and private organizations, such as food processing industries and whatnot, to provide them with their much needed during these unprecedented times of COVID. We have offices in Southeast Asia, as well as the UK and in the US, so we have direct relationships with our manufacturers to ensure competitive pricing as well as timely delivery. If anyone has any other questions, you can contact me at jenny@medicstore.com. Thanks.
So that was 46 seconds. It was very good, but I can tell you're right in between the Jax Bridges timeframe and the Women's Business Luncheon timeframe. So they're coaching us in Jax Bridges to do a 90-second introduction. So that was right at 46, kind of in between the two, but that's really sharp compared to what we first started with, Jenny. So
Right.
I'm looking forward to working with you on that if you still want me to.
Sure, that would be
But
great.
that was really good. That was a good start. Thank you so
Well,
much.
So, yeah, so I'll get more time during our speed networking during your event coming up.
Yes, I hope you'll be there, and I'm going to announce that in just a second before we move on. Erica, would you like to give it a shot? Would you like to tell everybody what you do?
Sure, I'll go for it. My name is Erica Bradley. I am a nonprofit leader, freelance writer, and content creator. Currently serving as a career specialist for Vet Jobs, which is a national nonprofit that connects our veterans, transitioning military members, spouses, and caregivers with employment opportunities.
Nice. 22 seconds. Steph, would you like to participate in this portion, even though you're presenting?
Sure, because I need practice on this new one for triple BS. All right, so my name is Stephanie Lincoln. I am the founder and CEO of Backend Bullshit Business Solutions, so triple BS. I help business owners save time, money, and their sanity by doing all the back-end technical bullshit that they don't want to deal with. So I set up automated systems, sales funnels, lead campaigns, social media posts for busy business owners who are not technically inclined and don't have the time to manage things. Stephanie, Backend Business Solutions.
Awesome. That was 28 seconds, Steph.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm going to go, and I'm not even going to time myself because it's my meeting and I can cry if I want to. All right. So I am Karen Barnes Rivera of K-Bar Productions and Boss Lady Brigade. We democratize business success by providing access to quality, affordable, and simplified marketing resources that are vetted by experts and arrive at just the right time in just the right way. We offer varying degrees of support from self-serve and DIY learning resources to community building events, curated connections, consulting services, and strategic partnerships. We work with tough as nails female business owners and veteran business owners who have hard-won life experience and want a badass business education while being able to simultaneously navigate in an environment that respects, honors, and appreciates the power of vulnerability in an engaging, vibrant, and dynamic way. If you need marketing services or you need to up-level your marketing literacy, or you just want to form a strategic partnership, email me at karen@kbarproductions.com. All right. Are we good? All right. So next, you guys, we're going to launch right into the speaker portion of today's event. It's going to be so incredibly meaningful, I believe, as we share the story of Stephanie's 56-hour battle for her life in the Olympic Mountains. And I will just give you the preface to this event by sharing my experience, if it's okay, Stephanie, and just let them know, give them the background of what happened. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
So not too long ago, in a galaxy not too far away, I received a phone call over the weekend that our good friend here, Stephanie, had set out on a hike and was due back at a certain time and had not made it back at that time, and that a search crew would be out to look for her. So of course, immediately, you know what comes with that, the gut, the stomach falls out and the spidey senses start going. And although I had some confidence that she would be found and that if anyone could make it through an ordeal like that, it was my friend and my business affiliate, Stephanie Lincoln, you never know. And you don't want to be too proud in those moments. You want to stay humble and hopeful, yet realistic. So imagine my relief and surprise after many hours of meditation and prayer and phone calls and emails and text messages to find out that she was okay and had been, spoiler alert, she had been rescued. And I can't wait for you guys to hear this story. So without further ado, let me introduce the fabulous, wonderful, beautiful human being and part-time angel, Stephanie Lincoln.
Thank you, Karen. That's very sweet. Well, I hope I could do that justice at this point. All right, so I did create a little kind of slideshow just to help me organize my thoughts, you know, so I'm not all over the place. So bear with me while I get this going. Okay. Everybody see that? Okay, good. All right. All right, so just a little about me, just a little background for those of you who don't know me. I think most people here do, but I am a 10-year Army veteran. I actually used to do 300-mile races. I was on the Florida Army National Guard endurance racing team. I was a sponsored mountain bike racer. I'm a lifelong athlete. I'm an avid hiker. I've done several solo hikes, multi-day solo hikes, mainly in the Appalachian Trail area. And then, you know, my businesses. So just to preface that, just I'm not some like day hiker who's, you know, never gone on a hike before and never had any experience in the wilderness. So, you know, between my endurance racing background, which we were out in the wilderness, I don't know if you guys have seen the world's toughest race, it's the Eco Challenge. Definitely check it out. I did an interview with the leader of the only and team so far who's was an all disabled team competing in the Eco Challenge race, and she happens to be an Army veteran. So a 30-year Army veteran, a female who is also in the Veterans Hall of Fame. So check that out. But you'll see how you're kind of out in the middle of the wilderness, you're navigating, you're kind of surviving out there with minimal equipment. So I have this experience in my background. So just to like put that forward of that's, you know, I'm not just like a typical day hiker kind of going out there and, you know, unprepared. So I established Fireteam Whiskey based on a need that I saw. I worked, you know, in the military as a military member, and then for the next 10 years after that, I was working in various contracts for military, medical, and mental health. And I noticed over time a significant and drastic change in our military, and the obesity rates kept climbing. Actually, the statistic is, I think it's climbed 73% in just the last 11 years. So, I mean, right in that time frame of me getting out of the military in the next decade, I noticed this on a ground level, you know, so, and all the chronic health issues that come along with that. So, you know, these soldiers and airmen that I was working with, you know, seem to be suffering from these chronic health issues that nobody at the age of 25, you know, is supposed to be in the prime of their life should be suffering from, like high blood pressure, obesity, you know, unexplained aches and pains, you know, mental health issues, GI issues, all the long list of things that come along with poor lifestyle choices and poor nutrition. So this is what I felt like we were up against, and I created Fireteam Whiskey to address this obesity epidemic in the military. So I've been preaching for the last 3+ years since I started Fireteam Whiskey that this isn't just about looking good in a bikini or your bathing suit. This is about survival. And this is about, you know, being ready as a military member and a first responder to react to whatever comes your way on a daily basis, because we know, you know, as a military member, if you're deployed or you're a first responder, you don't know what situation you're about to get in that day. You have no projection on that. You have to prepare yourself as much as possible to be physically and mentally ready in order to deal with those potentially life-threatening situations. You have to, you know, be able to react quickly. You have to be able to move quickly. You have to be able to, you know, lift heavy objects. You have to be able to lift your own body weight and get yourself out of a situation. So I've been preaching this for the last 3.5 years. All of a sudden, I found myself in that very situation that I had been warning all of our potential clients about. So that's when I found myself in that situation. But also to say that I was suffering with the same things that military members suffer from as well. So this is a picture of myself back in 2014. I was doing all the right things, you know, all the things that I'd been told to do, you know, eat my whole grains and my fruit and my vegetables, and exercise more and eat less. And I was doing all the things, yet I was getting heavier and heavier and sicker and sicker. I was like on 7 or 8 different medications for all these chronic health issues. And I was just in my 30s. So basically I just said, F that. I got to a certain point where I'm just like, you know, isn't that the definition of insanity? You're repeating the same things over and over again, yet you're getting, you know, you're expecting a different result and you're not getting the result you're told you're supposed to get. So I started, you know, researching these things just for myself to heal myself, and use myself as a guinea pig, and cured myself. Basically, I dropped my body fat in half. I completely cured myself of all my chronic health issues. I'm on 0 medications and haven't been for years. So at the age of 35, I was able to turn my life around. And now at the age of 40, I'm fitter and leaner and healthier than I ever was, even in my 20s. So I wanted to package this up and present it to military members. But, you know, the fact that I was in the shape that I'm in now, and to go through this experience of being lost in the wilderness was key. Because if I were back then in 2014, when I was still hypoglycemic and I couldn't go more than 2 hours without sugar, without passing out, I would have been SOL out there. And I really do believe that I probably would not have survived. I hope that I would have, but if I were in that shape, of 2014 shape, I don't think I would have been. And you know, the survival rate of people, you know, getting lost in the wilderness and not being physically and mentally ready for that, you know, I had a very small chance. But the fact that I'd been working on this for the last, you know, since I was 35 years old, for the last 5 years, prepared me for this moment in my life. So what do I think helped me out there? I'm fat adapted, so which means my body is used to switching easily from, you know, carbohydrate based energy to my body fat energy. This takes time to get to that point. And I was pretty much a lifelong hypoglycemic since the age of 15. I literally could not go more than 2 hours without sugars. And now I can go several days, and I've done several day fasts. So I actually was ready to not have food for 3 days, which I didn't have any food with me when I was out there. So I did not eat, obviously. But my body easily switched to burning fat as fuel. And I had plenty of energy out there for sure. High intensity interval training. So, you know, the endurance that you have to be at, the heart rate levels that I get at. Usually when people see my heart rate levels, they're like, oh my God, that's like, were you like dying? Were you like on the floor? I'm like, no, I felt great. You know, I can be in 180s during workouts and feel fantastic. So that's key, is to be used to that. Heavy load training, you know, I do lots of hikes. I always carry a pack when I go on hikes. I don't care if I'm going to be out there for an hour. I carry weight because that is the best way to train your body, get your heart rate up in a short amount of time. And plus, it made me prepared for being out there in the wilderness. And I'm going to translate all these things to kind of life in a few minutes. So,
hey, Steph, can I interrupt you for just a second? And just, is there anybody on this call who maybe doesn't know the story kind of from your perspective? Are you going to get into that at some point? Like, what happened?
Get into that.
Okay, awesome. Because I think a couple people know and some don't. Okay, great. Thank you.
Adaptive stressors. So this is big in the biohacking world. I'm kind of big into the biohacking world. Ben Greenfield, Mark Sisson. So if you're not familiar with that kind of stuff, like Wim Hof breathing, cold therapy. So, you know, going on shiver walks and taking cold showers and exposing yourself to cold, extreme heat like sauna and red light therapies. These are all called adaptive stressors. So it's when you basically start a process within the body biologically that sets it into survival mode. And it basically kind of hits the reset button on your body, and it clears out all the bad stuff. So basically your body just says, ooh, I'm in an emergency. We need to clear out all the bad stuff. So this is a good way to clean your system, basically. So like all these white blood cells get released, starts like attacking all this stuff that shouldn't be in there. So this is a good way to kind of, it's called autophagy, to kind of hit the reset button on your body. And most people don't practice any of this stuff. So they don't stress their body out enough to actually clear their system very well. And then pain endurance. I say all the time that 90% of working out and you know, doing what I do for fitness and nutrition is just being comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? We are creatures of comfort, and we like to just do what we're normally comfortable with, right? We don't like to go outside that box. It's scary. We don't like to be uncomfortable, you know. So a big part of the things that keep us stuck is just pain endurance. We just don't want to be uncomfortable. We don't want to be fearful. We don't want to deal with the unknown. And I wanted to ask you guys, do you notice a common factor in these photos? These are all photos from hikes that I've done before my wilderness experience.
Well, I see smiles in all of them and packs in all of them.
A red pack in all of them, I might add.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm glad you said that. Yes, I always carry a pack. So this is about preparation. So even if I'm just going to be out there for an hour, I always wear my pack. So you will see all of my hiking pictures have that little red peaking thing right in the background. And of course, I'm very happy because I love hiking. So a mindset shift is, this is one of my favorite quotes. I'm obsessed with Cheryl Strayed. So if you haven't read any of her stuff, I highly recommend it. Wild, you might have seen they made a movie out of it. So the book is way better, just saying. But she is just so prolific with kind of getting these little sound bites of really like the struggle of life and how you can overcome these things. And I love this quote. It's impossible for you to go on as you were before, so you must go on as you never have. And to me, this quote means, you know what? Shit happens. Like most of us have had a pretty crappy year, right? Things happen, but you cannot choose to go on as you were before. Those incidences, those things that happen will change you no matter what no matter how much you struggle against it. It's going to change you in some way. It's going to change your life in some way. It's going to change how you view the world in some way. So my choice that I made coming out of the wilderness was, and as I was out there thinking about all these things, because I had a lot of time to think, you know, there's really not much else I could do but move my body and think, was I was going to take this experience and apply it the best I could to my life in a positive way. I wasn't going to get stuck or pretend it didn't happen, which I think is even worse. And, you know, which is really easy for us to do when something bad happens to us, is to just kind of wipe the slate clean and go, okay, this didn't happen. I'm just going to go back to my old life. I'm going to pretend this never happened. I'm just going to keep walking forward. And I definitely was very careful about making sure I didn't do that, which is why I immediately got into therapy after my experience. Like literally the next morning, I was on the phone for 2 hours with my therapist. So, and I have been at, you know, I was every week and then every other week so far since the experience. It's and it's to force myself. It really is at times to force myself to go on as I didn't before, and to make sure that I'm applying the lessons learned, and that I don't go into kind of the survival mode of, I just want to forget this and move on with my life. I want to create something positive about this experience. So that's a mindset shift that we all have to go through when we're going through something hard. And that's how I changed my life when I was struggling mentally and physically. You know, I was suffering from depression. I had anxiety attacks. This was, you know, when I was in my 30s. And I had to not only change my physical efforts and my nutrition, but I had to change my mindset, because that was keeping me stuck as well. And I started looking at these things that I was doing to improve myself as rewards instead of punishment. So a lot of people look at therapy as punishment. Oh, I've got to fix myself. There's something wrong with me, right? And I wanted to look at it as a reward. Like, this is something that's helping me. This is something that's improving my relationships, you know, et cetera. And also looking at it as self-care, you know, versus obligation. So more so like when we have to do something and it's hard, or we struggle with it, changing that mindset of, well, it's not that I have to do it. I'm actually choosing to do this, and I'm doing it because of these following reasons. There's some positive things I'm going to get out of this, even though it's a hard thing to do, or I'm uncomfortable with it, or I know I'm going to struggle with it. Relying on willpower is never a good idea, because willpower is finite. You have to find some sort of way to change your environment to encourage those positive behaviors that you want to do in your life. So if you struggle with time management, instead of trying to force through it, you need to structure your environment to improve your odds of getting those things on your to-do list done, right? So that the environment around you has to change, because you can't rely on that willpower. It's going to be finite. Deprivation versus enjoyment. So instead of looking at tasks and things that you have to do as taking away from, like we were just talking about Thanksgiving, right? You know, we look at, well, I'm on a diet, I'm trying to lose weight, or et cetera. I can't eat all that stuff. You know, it's going to suck. More so look at, how can I enjoy this? How can I make this a positive experience for myself? How can I make something really yummy? Plus it's part of, you know, my nutrition plan. So, you know, it's just that way of looking at things. Pain thresholds, you have to get yourself comfortable with doing uncomfortable things. And I was just looking at, I had a little thing from Lululemon, and on it, it says, do something you're afraid of every day. Do one thing you're afraid of every day. That is the practice of pain threshold building. That is the practice of being uncomfortable. If you are scared to pitch your business to somebody, or to pitch your idea, or to pitch a collaboration, friggin' do it anyway. Like, the worst thing that can happen is they say no, right? Why are we so afraid of no? You know, it's just so ridiculous. And I'll talk about that kind of final thought for me in a second. That's kind of a big deal. And then confidence. This is the double-edged sword. The confidence issue for me, I'm still kind of working through in therapy. My confidence level was one of the reasons why I got lost. But my confidence level is also one of the reasons why I got found. This is a huge balancing act, I think, for everybody. If you don't have enough, it's like the Goldilocks syndrome. If you don't have enough, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot a lot. You're going to miss opportunities. You're going to not attract the attention that you need, or be looked at as authority figure that you need to be looked at in your business. But overconfidence is also going to stomp on relationships, burn bridges, or turn people off, right? So there is a huge balancing act. So let's talk about my experience. I'll just give you a quick overview of my experience. I went out that morning to just go on an hour hike, I always bring my pack, which has some emergency supplies in it. So preparation is always key. I was taught that in the military. You always have your uniform, your equipment, right? But I also made some mistakes that very morning. I was rushing. I was just wanting to get out there because I had my to-do list, right, for the rest of the day. I didn't do a pack check. Even though I ended up with most of what I needed out there, there were a few key items that I would have had with me if I would have just paused for a few minutes to do a pack check. So that was a huge failure. I did let my husband know where I was going. I always do that. I always give him a copy of the map and where I'm supposed to be and what time I'm supposed to be expected back. Because usually I'm hiking in areas with spotty cell service. And then I use a hiking app. Unfortunately, my app kind of screwed me out there too. I don't think I could have avoided that at that, there's nothing I could do about an app. I don't own it. But so you see these pictures here, you see the pictures of the wilderness. You see that sign in the bottom right-hand screen? That's the trailhead. That's the trail I was supposed to be on. Do you see a trail?
No, it looks like wilderness.
So there was no indication that that was actually a trailhead, because you don't see a trail. Usually if you get on a trailhead, you cleanly see a trail. The one in the center left is what I got on. So you kind of see a path going up there, right? These were literally about 30 yards apart. So the app brought me to a parking area, and I saw a path going up into the wilderness, and it was going in the correct direction of the trail. Same direction, azimuth. I got my compass out. I got on that instead of the one on the right. So that was a kind of a failure on my part. I maybe could have done a little bit of a recon, kind of walked it a little bit, but I don't know. I may have ended up in the same situation. And then my overconfidence. There were red flags immediately. I mean, obviously, as soon as I got to the trailhead, there was a red flag. It wasn't a clearly marked path. It was kind of confusing. My spidey senses were triggered. But because of my overconfidence, because I've done so many difficult hikes, because I have a lot of experience, I basically kind of looked at it like, well, I can do this. I can handle this. I've done unmarked trails before. It's all good. I'm an experienced hiker. So instead of what maybe a normal person would have been like, ooh, this is effed up, I'm probably going to just go try a different trail, I didn't, because of my overconfidence. And that got me into trouble that day. And as I went along the trail, about 30 minutes in, there were red flags that, it's just kind of difficult to see the trail. It started kind of meandering off in a different direction, as the map said. And there were red flags, and I got myself too deep into the situation where I decided I'm going to turn back around. I was only 30 minutes into my hike, but I did turn back around, and I was already lost at that point. Because
Do you have a physical map too? Is that what that is? Isn't it?
Well, so what I did was what you do is download the map, and I had it on my phone.
Oh, okay.
I do prefer a paper map, but that wasn't available. So usually if you get to a trailhead, they have paper maps there too that you can take. But obviously this one didn't have anything, nor a sign saying that there's a trail there either. So, and that's when I realized I was lost, so I hiked back the same amount of time, and it did not take me back to the car. And so I did my concentric circles as we're supposed to, could not find it. I got to high points to try and see what I could see, and also trying to get a cell phone signal, nothing. And I knew I was truly lost. So basically at that point, I had to go into survival mode. I had about 2 minutes of panic, where your heart is just pounding and you're starting to have a panic attack, and you start kind of freaking out mentally. And I did some deep breathing and said, okay, I ain't got time for this, and turned it off. And for the rest of the time out there, I didn't feel any panic, any sort of fear or concern. I just was in survival mode. So every decision I made was, is this going to take me closer to survival? There was no time for, fretting or crying or being scared, because that was not going to take me a step closer to getting found out there. Long story short, got myself to a river and a very large clearing overhead after 3 days of kind of exploring the area, trying to find a road or, a logging trail or something. Got myself to, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but did you get to that river? Is that after you threw yourself down the mountain to get to it?
Yes, I did.
I just have to ask that question because she literally threw herself down the mountain to get to the water.
I literally
and lost her walking sticks. Is that after the river or before?
This was before. So I spent the night so I was on top of a ridge, right? I spent the night there. So the rule is you got to stay in place, right? If you are lost, you've got to stay, just stay where you're at. And I was doing I have my emergency whistle. I set my timer on my phone. I was blowing it every 30 minutes. I was listening. I decided I'm going to stay the night here, and wait a full, 24 hours. And if, I'm not found, then I need to get to a water source. Then I need to assume that I'm going to be out here for several days. And the only way I'm going to survive is if I have water, right? So I did stay the night up on the ridge, and it got into the 40s, and I have a thermometer on my emergency whistle. So it's, I don't know how accurate it is, but it was freaking cold.
And you had a fire that first night, right?
I made myself a fire. I actually have an emergency fire starter kit in my pack. So I was able to make a fire, which I believe saved my life that first night, because I was soaked from sweat. I mean, from climbing, and, it was physically arduous. And I happened to be in the only rainforest in the United States. So there wasn't any sunlight to dry me out before the sun went down. So it got cold real quick.
Or dry wood.
Right. Or dry wood at that point. So I was able to use my kindling to dry some wood out, and then the wood was able to burn. So I got a fire going for about 4 hours that night, before I ran out of kindling. And then all there is just wet wood out there. So but I was able to, take my socks off, roast them like a weenie with a stick over the fire, get them dried, and, huddle over the fire to get my clothing dry and keep my body temperature up. And then at that point, my endurance racing and survival skills checked in. And, at that point, I had to pace all night to keep my body moving, because if I were to lay down, I would have quickly become hypothermic. So I didn't have any cold weather gear out there. I did have a trash bag. So I wore that as a body heat trapping poncho, tucked it into my pants. And then I also had a rain poncho for my backpack. So I actually wrapped that around my head and tied it around my neck to trap my head heat. And so I had my head heat and my core heat trapped, which is fantastic, because that, kept me from getting hypothermic out there. Plus, walking all night long back and forth. So those were some long nights, but I did do, talking about those mental rechecks, and I told my therapist this. I said, basically, I imagined myself walking into your office, my therapist's office, sitting down and having a therapy session. And I literally talked all night long, processing all of this all night long, just to keep me occupied as I walked back and forth, and to keep my kind of spirits up. So that was my mental endurance training that I went through. Oh,
So when did you throw yourself down the mountain to get to the river?
Oh yeah, so so the next day, after 24 hours of being in one place, I decided, hey, okay, I haven't heard any signs of search. I need to get to a water source. So I could hear it from where I was, and I knew from my map that it was in a certain direction. So I just shot my azimuth. I kind of walked up and down the ridge, to see where it's called a draw, where two ridges come together and it creates kind of like a butt crack down. So I basically slid down this mountain just in this butt crack, and I was covered. I wish I would have taken a picture of myself at the bottom of this thing, but it was just hours of just crazy. Like, I was covered from like my neck to my toes in mud, just because it was so wet and slippery. And I was climbing over trees, and I was taking my pack off and throwing it over huge fallen trees that were taller than me. It was a crazy scramble down. And then I did go sliding out of control a couple of times, and that's where I lost my poles at some point up there. So, but I did get to the river, and I was able to kind of clean myself up and get water refilled. And then I knew at that point, you know, there's a clearing overhead, you know, down there. So I had a nice overhead view, and I just decided, okay, I'm going to go in one direction to see if maybe there's a logging trail that comes down to the river, or I can see maybe where there's a bridge that comes over the river. So I went one direction one day, stayed the night by the river that night, and then went one direction the next day, and found actually a bigger clearing on that second day, the third day. So I said, okay, this is where I'm going to kind of camp out if I'm going to be out here for several days, because it was the biggest clearing that I saw. And I went as far as I possibly could. It became impassable. So I just went back to that clearing. I set up my rocks, my white rocks where it said help, and my big X with my sticks. And, you know, I decided, hey, this is where I'm going to be, you know, and until I get found. I've got plenty of water, and all I have to do, the only job I have, is to stay dry and to stay warm. That's it. So I had a very simple job at that point. This is just what
But no fire, so you paced to stay
no
warm.
fire. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So at that point, I had, my kindling was gone. So I just had to just be focused on staying dry. And so all those long hikes and climbs that I did down the river, you know, I got very sweaty, of course, but fortunately there's nobody out there. So I just got naked and and just laid out my clothing, and it was beautiful sunshine because it was clearing, and I got really lucky with the weather, very lucky, thank goodness, and was able to dry everything out and get nice and toasty and dry before the sun started going down. So I still paced at night, but because I was able to keep dry, that helped a lot. And then on the third day, that was when I first heard the helicopter, the search and rescue helicopter. And I had a bright red backpack and my emergency mirror and my emergency whistle. So I just kind of kept those things handy as I was kind of listening. I had heard it off in the distance, but they, you know, obviously it was too far away. There was no way they could see me. I couldn't even see them, but I could hear it. And then on that very late on that third day, it was about 5 maybe their time, Pacific time, and the sun had kind of already gone down behind the trees. That's when I heard it again, and I got up on this huge boulder in the middle of this clearing, and with my red backpack and my emergency whistle in my mouth and my mirror, and I was just waiting for them to peek over the tree line, and they did, and I just started waving it, doing my mirror and blowing my whistle, and they saw me. And yeah, long story short, I was whisked away on the end of a very long rope at the end of this helicopter flying over the Olympic National Forest to safety.
Stephanie, I think it bears repeating that someone came down on a rope and harnessed you to them, correct?
Yes, yeah.
And then at the end of that rope that was thrown out of the helicopter, that's where you stayed for 15 minutes as the helicopter flew back. Is that correct? You dangled?
Yeah, it was about 20 minutes. They warned me ahead of time. He warned me. He said, we actually have about a 20-minute flyover here at the end of this line to get to a place where they could actually land the helicopter. So
you were at the end of the rope after being at the end of your rope for 3 days. And can you guys imagine the courage and patience and everything that it takes to be out there for 3 days in the wilderness, and then you're like attached to a stranger who is, you hope is good at their job and is now taking you over the forest, how many thousands, tens of thousands of feet above a forest at the end of a rope. Like, you're a true hero for all of that, Stephanie.
Well, I wasn't the hero. It was the guys flying the helicopter and the guy on the rope. I was just a spectator.
That's like a really bad amusement park ride. You know, did you like invent that as an amusement park ride, flying? Oh.
Well, I did say, you know, I still had a little bit of a sense of humor, you know. I kept my spirits up the whole time I was out there. And I did tell him when we were flying, I said, well, I haven't eaten in 3 days, so I'm not going to shit myself, but I may possibly piss myself. So I apologize if I do that, because I didn't really feel like I was in full control of my faculties at that point.
So polite, even under duress.
I did also apologize for how bad I stank. I smelled pretty bad. So these are some pictures from after my rescue. That was my first hug with my husband as we arrived at the sheriff's office. After we landed about an hour and a half from where I was at an airport. And then in the bottom left-hand side, my husband's best friend in the back in the orange shirt and my brother-in-law. I was very surprised to see them. They flew out from the East Coast and were involved in the search and rescue efforts. So got to hug them as well. And then I took a picture of all my equipment. So that is everything I had out there with me that helped me survive. So it is all about preparation. But I really do, you know, even though I had some very lucky equipment and some experience under my belt, I think, you know, physically and mentally especially, my mental endurance skills were the thing that really helped me survive out there. And again, confidence. I mean, my confidence got me into that situation, but my confidence was also the thing that kept me going out there, and that I didn't give up. And I didn't give up on myself. I didn't give up on the people who are looking for me and praying for me. It really easily could have been to get to a bad place mentally out there and to give up and to it would have been easy to lay down and go to sleep and never wake up again, because hypothermia can happen very quickly. So, you know, just that mental endurance skill alone helped me survive out there. So here's another quote from Cheryl Strayed that I actually have on my phone and has been one of the themes of my life for a very long time, since I originally read this book that it's from Wild. I was amazed that what I needed to survive could be carried on my back, and most surprising of all, that I could carry it, that I could bear the unbearable. And I think this is a quote that everybody should have on their phones, because when you're going through some hard shit, it's amazing on the other side of it, when you look back, that you recognize, God, I endured that. I carried that burden. It sucked, certainly, and I wish I hadn't gone through that, but I would have not have recognized myself, you know, from before and after. Like, those skills came out, it changed me as a human being, but I had it within me all along. I just didn't know that, you know, at that point. So, you know, I'd love for you guys to kind of use this kind of lesson that I've learned, and these lessons that I'm going to go through right now, that you can apply from my experience to what you're going through right now. So the number one lesson out there was, each night, I was very mindful about that was going to be my last night on the planet as a living human being. That was the real scenario for me. I was very aware of that, that this might be it. You know, I could, something could happen. I could not survive this night. Night was the most dangerous part for me out there. So I was very mindful about what was going through my head And I thought to myself, gosh, all the things that we get stressed out about, right? I mean, all the projects and time and, oh, I've got this going on and the election and blah, blah, you know, all this stuff that's stressing us out on a daily basis and that we get so wrapped up in. Those, I promise you, those things are not even on your radar when you are trying to survive, when you are really on basically ready to die. None of those things enter into your thought process. So really, how important are they? And I thought about that a lot out there. It's like, I'm not going to lay down and die out here and think about, gosh, I'm so proud of how many hours I worked. I'm so proud of, you know, how much money is in my bank account. I'm so proud, you know, like none of these things even entered into my mind. So really, how important are they? The things that I was thinking about, you know, were my friends and my family and all of the wonderful experiences that I've had that made me happy and warm and fuzzy. And I just kept thinking, and I actually even looked on my phone every night of all the pictures on my phone of all my friends and family. And I spoke out loud to them and said, I love you so much. I know you're looking for me. Don't give up on me. And here's how you were important in my life. And here's how you've changed my life and made it better. And I hope I have another opportunity to tell you that. But if I don't, I'm sending it out in the universe and hopefully you can feel this. That's the most important thing. So I have used, I've translated that lesson now on the other side of this surviving to when I start to get that kind of anxiety creep, is what I call it, you know, stress creep, and I notice it, I think of that and go, is this really important? Am I going to think about this on my deathbed? No. So why am I getting so stressed out about it now? It's pretty silly, right? What are the most important things right now? I need to think about that. I need to think about my relationships and the people that I love and the people that make me feel warm and fuzzy, right? And it just dampens down all that stress. And that goes along with the world gets really small and really simple. I have never had such a simple life than in those 56 hours I was out there. Never in my life have I had such a simple life. It really was, you've got two choices. You either survive or you don't survive. Which one are you going to choose right now? And every moment was like that. So gosh, I wish, you know, I'm really still trying to do that, is to translate that into now. It's like, I need to simplify. I mean, I live a pretty damn simple life, you know, respectively. I live in a 100 square foot RV, you know, I don't have that much stuff, but, you know, I want to kind of clear the stuff out of my life, right? The things that we just, the busyness and the things that kind of eat up our time, and really just get my life as close as possible to just the most important things, the most simple things I could possibly have in my life. We talked about the power of the mind and the confidence. So finding that balance is what I'm trying to do now, is to still be the confident me, you know, and that's important in life because that's given me a lot of opportunities, but also checking myself and being much more humble. And this, especially in my relationship with my husband, is something that I've really been trying to do because, you know, I happen to be a know-it-all and I know everything and I know the answers and, you know, and he doesn't, you know, so the way I kind of speak with him and talk to him and treat him, I've kind of checked myself and been a lot more humble in my relationships. In progress, I mean, out there, I was just focused on making progress, just taking one more step to surviving. And I think a lot of times we get so stuck in where we're at with problems that we seemingly can't overcome. And we get so focused on the goal that we forget the progress. And I'm trying to be much more mindful of that, is to apply that to my life in every way, whether it be relationships or my business or anything. You know, stop focusing so much on the goal and focus much more on just the baby steps. Hey, I'm making progress today. You know, yeah, I still have a to-do list that's like 215 items long. but I need to acknowledge that I did 2 things today and celebrate that and focus more on the progress. I've been much more mindful of my time because when you're about to leave this earth and your life is being threatened, that's what you think about the most, is how did I spend my time? And I want to be proud of, and that was the one regret I had, was I just need to slow down and enjoy some moments instead of rushing off to the next item on my to-do list or the next thing on my calendar, right? That's how I've operated in my life. And I've really been checking myself with that, is to kind of take my time. We've got a really busy week, and Karen's talked about that. I had this going on. I've got 2 presentations in the end of this week. I've got a couple other projects I'm working on for other businesses. And I can easily go back into, just working, going to the next item. And I've checked myself, and I've turned off, work mode at dinner time. I sat with my husband, spent time with him. When before probably this experience, I would have kind of brushed him off and been like, hey, I got work to do. And he, of course, would have been very understanding, because that's just who he is. But again, going back to, am I going to be proud of that? Am I going to be so glad that I got these projects done if I were to lay down and die tomorrow? No. I would be proud that I spent time with somebody that I love and I have a wonderful relationship with. So just checking those priorities. Patience, kindness, empathy was my mantra out there. Why? I don't know. The universe put it in my mind, and it was just something I kept repeating over and over and over and over again. I must have said it probably 900 times in those 56 hours. Obviously, there's the things that I need more of in my life. That universe gave me those 3 words. So I am not going to just now drop those words since I'm safe. I'm going to really focus, because there's a reason why the universe gave me those 3 words. And negativity is death. It is so easy to spiral mentally when bad things happen, you're having a shitty day, things didn't turn out your way. You have to be able to get to a place to let that go. Sure, take 2 minutes and curse and yell, and I definitely did that out there. I yelled at myself a couple times for making some mistakes or falling in the river, and so you can beat yourself up. But I could have taken that to a very bad place, and it would have gotten me in a worse and worse situation. So I gave it a time limit, and then I had to move on with my life, and I had to focus on the positive. I kept envisioning the different scenarios where I was going to get saved. When I was, I would find a road. I kept saying that out loud. I will find a logging road. I will hear a helicopter. I will find new sticks to take the place of my sticks that I lost sliding down the mountain, which I did. I got 2 perfect wooden sticks that helped me cross the river. I will find a knife. I literally found a knife out there, guys. I said it about 300 times, and it happened. So I definitely learned the power of positive visualizations and the power of positive speech to manifest things to happen for me. So that has been huge. I'm like, I need to do that in my regular life. I've never done that before. So the power of positivity, the power of positive speech, to say it out loud, to make sure that you are focusing on this will happen instead of, well, I hope it happens. I was saying this will happen, and it did happen. And so lastly, this last quote by Cheryl Strayed, of course. Fear to the great extent is born of a story we tell ourselves. And so I choose to tell myself a different story from the one women are told. I decided I was safe, I was strong, I was brave. So everything we don't do in life, all the regrets that we have, is because we were fearful. I mean, really, that's the base of it. It's the fear of the unknown. It's the fear of being uncomfortable. It's the fear of rejection. And I just want to encourage you all you know, you're the author of your story. You're the only author of your story. And the narrative is yours. So you can write in your story that you're fearful and that you chose to not do things and pursue things out of the fear of the unknown or being uncomfortable or being told no. Or you can write a different story and you can say, you know what, she was brave and she tried it anyway. Maybe it didn't work out, but at least at the end of the story, you look back and go, wow, she was brave. She tried this, you know, may have not worked out for her or may have turned out a different way, but at least she tried, right? And you know, what's the worst that can happen at that point? You're going to be uncomfortable. You're going to, you know, be disappointed. You're going to maybe be pissed off, but that's okay because that's limited. That's finite. You can move on from that, but you can never move on from regrets. When things are left undone and you reach the end of the road, you're going to look back and go, gosh, I really wish I would have. And I don't want to end my life that way. So what am I doing differently? My work days are much shorter. I'm focusing on where I spend my time, who I'm investing my time in. You know, some certain people I maybe not, I'm not spending so much time with. Touch and connection. That was such a huge void when I was out there. I wanted to touch everybody. When you're alone in the wilderness and you're the only human being for miles and miles and miles, you want to touch someone. You want to be touched. So I'm really being more mindful about physically touching people. I know with COVID, that's like passe at this point, but I just want to, you know, snuggle and hug and touch and just even just like a high five or, you know, that's just making connections is what I'm focused on. Being more connective, you know, making phone calls instead of sending a text, you know, because that, you know, I think social media and technology has kind of helped our world become much more impersonal. And just making those phone calls and saying, hey, how are you? Instead of sending a text saying, hi, how are you? It's much different. You're making those human connections. And then my 3 words that I'm still working on: patience, kindness, and empathy. And so my last little thing is on the bottom right-hand side, there's a picture here. We did a really powerful, I'm part of a mastermind group of women business owners, and we go on these retreats. And we did this really powerful exercise where we came up with our kind of theme. And mine ended up being, throughout this exercise, born to be brave. And we took these pictures with the words written on our bodies. And going through this experience now, you know, I think this was about a year ago or maybe less than, but I decided it needs to be on my body because it really seems to be a theme in my life. As I was kind of always waiting for this moment to happen. It was going to happen. And I was going to prove something to myself mentally. And so I ended up getting Born to be Brave tattooed on my right arm. So proof that it's still there. It's not fake.
So Stephanie, you took the black and white picture long before your episode in the wilderness, and it says Born to be Brave.
Yeah.
And then you had that 56-hour battle, and then you got the tattoo on your forearm, Born to be Brave, after the ordeal, just to give everybody kind of a time perspective on that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So that is it. That was my presentation.
Stephanie, that's amazing. Let's give her a virtual round of applause. You guys turn on your microphones for that bravery and inspiration.
Awesome.
That
Good
is a
job.
once in a lifetime kind of story. Stephanie, before I open it up for questions, I just want to, first of all, thank you for sharing your vulnerability with us and showing us how you navigated that and sharing with us how being vulnerable, some strong decisions, some positive decisions you can make in the midst of that vulnerability. You still have choice. You still have agency. You always have a choice, you guys, no matter what situation you're in. And I love that message. And you mentioned that like regret, and you might, you know, to be brave, and you might, you know, make a brave decision and end up disappointed, or, you know, whatever the case might be. You might not get what you wanted, or you might feel like you failed, but like you're going to feel like that anyway if you don't try. And you know what I mean? So you might as well just be like, okay, well, I might feel this, but I also might not. So a lot of people, including myself, you know, sometimes I'll be in situations where I'm just like, well, I don't want to experience failure, so I'm just not going to try, because at least then if I don't try, there's a certainty there that I can cling to, right? And false hope that will bring some sort of security or safety or advantage. But the fact is, like, taking that chance and being brave opens so many new doors. And yeah, you might end up with a little disappointment or something like that, but you also might not. And in the disappointment you do fear, or that you do feel perhaps from time to time, and taking chances is different, right? It's different than when you say the choices when you're disappointed because of regret. So that's why I think they say you regret the things you don't do more than the things that you do. So I just wanted to say that's what I kind of got at the end there of that presentation, because I get something new every time I hear your story. So thank you.